Every conversation explores the art of thinking beyond the obvious. And today I have my special guest. She's an author, consultant, a speaker, helping individuals and communities to rise with intention, rather than Maze Lin Green.
Hello, hello. Thank you for having me.
Welcome, Miss Lynn on Abstract Essay. And can you please introduce more about yourself that I missed?
Yes. So I am Lin Green. I was born Limani Bename, born in Puerto Rico, raised by a Dominican family, of matriarch of a mother, very strong-willed and powerful and independent, which in itself could be an issue when you're married, right? But
Mm,
she's always had that strong character and has really taught me to be a confident person and really work towards my goals. My book itself, Enough for the Secrets, Mama, which you mentioned that I am an author, is really centered on mother-daughter relationship issues, but it discovers so much as I was going through my healing journey and how a lot of the ways that I grew up really ended up affecting me to become an overachiever and perfectionist. And long story short, here I am wearing many hats and really
hmm.
focusing on building individuals and organizations.
Yes, and thank you so much for sharing your knowledge and wisdom to the world, Miss Lynn. Thank you. And today, let's talk about enough with the secrets, breaking generational cycles and choosing healing itself. So, the title of our topic is Enough with Secrets. What is the first secret you remember knowing, not because someone told you, but because you could feel it in the room unspoken?
Yes, so for me, the very first secret that I can tell and observe as a child was that my brother was struggling with drug addiction and substance abuse, and that was causing a lot of chaos in our home.
So, Miss Lynn, in families with generational trauma, silence is often survival mechanism. When you were growing up, what happened to a person who spoke the truth out loud? What was the cause of honesty?
It was usually shutting you down. So I grew up in a home where, and I'm sure a lot of people have also, where you would rather be seen and not heard. You were going to be respectful and know that it was your position to say nothing and move on, regardless of whether you agreed with something or not. That's kind of the way that we were raised. So that in itself really created developmentally, a personality that pretty much carried on in life doing the same thing.
Yes, indeed. So, Henry, a young man, sharing his story of a breaking cycle, to describe an unspoken family expectation to stay strong and silent. Did your family have a similar unwritten rule book? What are the rules you didn't know you were following until you broke one?
The rules I didn't know I was following, I would say, was primarily just to be strong beyond my capacity to do so. That was one of the roles that I played. And if I'm being honest, one of the things that I would say rules that I broke is probably when I would tell small lies in an effort to gain some acknowledgement and just to be seen. So I would do little things like hide certain items that I know my mother was going to be looking for. And when I see she was looking for it, I turn around and say, "Oh, I think I know where it is." And all to have that grandiose, at least that feeling of, "Oh, you see me. You see me. I'm not invisible here."
Mhm.
Yeah.
Definitely. You're not invisible for sure. Many families have what Dr. Mariel Bach calls unprocessed pain that get passed down like a family heirloom. What was the heirloom in your family that no one wanted but everyone carried?
Pride.
Hmm.
Pride was the heirloom that we all carried, but no one wanted. And to be honest, as an adult, I didn't even know that I carried it, and I would say probably about my mid 20s was when I started to see just how much pride was affecting me in my profession, in my relationships. And I learned that I needed to shed that pride, right? We're called to be humble, and in humility is where we find growth.
Hmm. Definitely. Humility, people. There's often a moment where you realize that the normal you grew up with is not normal at all. Melanie Shackle described looking back and thinking, oh, what is not a normal? What is your version of that moment?
Over independence is not normal. I find that we have to be able to depend on other people. We are not living in a world all to ourselves. And so I grew up seeing my mother take control of all situations, even within our home. So in a marriage, as I grew up and then became, I got married and got my own partner, I was having to learn to move as a couple and not on my own. So that is certainly, yeah, one of the things that I saw, and it just kind of trickled into my own life, and I quickly had to learn how to undo that.
Mm, interesting, Miss Lane. Recurring family conflict, emotional distance, and unhealthy coping mechanisms are all signs of unhealed generational trauma. Looking back, what patterns did you accept as just how our families is that you now recognize as a trauma responses?
So, growing up, we were pretty much told that anything that happened within the household stayed within the household. And so, that in itself was a secret. It was a big secret that we had to carry with us as, as young as 5, 6 years old. So, having this ingrained with you that you are to maintain this ultimate privacy really makes it difficult to then build relationships with people outside of your home. If this is how you carry on day to day and it's so ingrained in you that you have to be so private about your family and your issues, then how do you know to go to someone when things seem a little off, or maybe you start exploring other relationships with people and you realize that's not how they did things. And so those are the things I think are really impactful, especially in our development, to know when we're born into and raised into an environment that ultimately doesn't serve the way we carry on in life.
Very well said. Miss Lane, was there a specific relationship, perhaps with a partner or your own child, that forced you to see the patterns you were unconsciously repeating?
Absolutely. My marriage to Mr. Mikhail Green, um, he really was the one who helped me get over this independence. I remember when we first got married, my instinct always was to just run away from issues. If something didn't feel right, if I couldn't control how things were going, then usually my first instinct was, okay, this is not going to work. I think we should just call it quits. And I remember specifically, probably about 6 months into our marriage, we had a disagreement, just a normal disagreement, nothing major. But to me, it was so big because we had just been married, and I'm looking at it like, okay, we're married, and we're having an argument within 6 months of us getting married. This is not going to work. And he said to me very boldly, and we need people like this in our lives, you can't do that anymore. That is not how this works. We're married, we have to work things through. And I'm really grateful for that. He is the person that will call me out when he sees me slipping. And when he sees that the way I'm moving is in contrary to all the healing and growing I've done. So very grateful for him.
Mm, grateful indeed. So, Miss Lane, Dr. Bach speaks about how she had to identify the roots of her own generational pain as a black immigrant Dominican woman. How do your cultural or community identity intersect with the patterns you inherited?
So Dominicans or Caribbeans and immigrants in general, I will say,
Hmm.
have a lot of need to prove themselves to be able to make it, to be successful. So a lot of those patterns that we've developed in order to be successful in a world that otherwise looks down on us pretty much becomes the way that we carry on in life, just working within that space. So being in just an immigrant woman, seeing how my mother was able to transition, not 100% yet even speaking the language, but seeing how she works so hard, that really has been impactful. So I really see that. And I see some similarities with even people who are American born, who are maybe, second generation immigrant families or not immigrant families at all. To be honest, I think right now we're living in a situation where all of us kind of, or some of us, feel a little out of place with a lot of the things happening throughout the world. It's very, just concerning. And so I think overall, just understanding those differences and being able to acknowledge that we're all one human race, right?
Mm. One human race indeed. So, Miss Lane, breaking cycle means you become the ancestor who changes everything. But it also means you carry the weight of being the first. When did you realize that you did not heal, the pattern would continue through you?
The moment I had my son, when I became a mother, I realized that this is where things have to change. And so I was very intentional with wanting to be the best mother I could be, to raise him differently than what I had seen. Not that my mother did a bad job raising us, but I saw certain characteristics in her parenting that I did not want to repeat within me raising my son. So that was the starting point for me, and I was as young as, I'd say, 21 when I started having these thoughts and thinking, okay, something's got to be different.
Mm, something must be different. And what is that different thing? Must be, Miss Lynn. Miss Diane Young, a trauma specialist, says breaking cycles requires a deep commitment and self awareness, self compassion, and personal growth. What was the hardest part of commitment for you? The self awareness, the self compassion, or the actual growth?
The self compassion, that was definitely the most difficult. Really getting to a place where I can show myself grace and forgive myself for being so hard on myself throughout the years, and thinking that I needed to overextend myself to feel worthy of love, of attention, and just to be looked at as someone who is actually doing good. I really developed this desire to be the perfect everything, as you could see by me wanting to be even the perfect mother. So that came out of this survival space where I felt like this is what I needed to do to at least feel worth being able to accomplish anything. So I became the best student, the best employee, the best wife. I've tried to be the best mother, the best daughter. And so a lot of those things, really what they did was cause burnout within my life. And I had to learn to reshape things.
Hmm. Certainly, it's hard to be the best people. It's hard to do the best. Muslin Henry described carrying the weight of her family expectations alone, feeling like he could not tell his parents the truth about his struggles. Do you have a moment when you felt completely isolated in your healing, misunderstood by very people you come from?
Absolutely. Yes. I felt like the black sheep of the family, so to speak. I definitely felt isolated because my thinking seemed to disrupt the normality of how things were going within our home, within our lives, within our relationships as a family. And so when that started happening, I really removed myself in order to really get to understand why is this happening? Why am I feeling this way? Why are normal conversations, not normal? Why is a simple conversation that's supposed to be nice and civil turn into something much greater? And so I had to isolate myself in order to really identify the root cause of those emotions, and ultimately, end up seeking professional help for it, trying to get a third party to help me understand and make sense of what was going on around me.
Hmm, I like that. Makes sense what's happening around us. It's something we need to discover. Miss Lynn Osley, a matter breaking for generations of domestic violence, said counseling helped her family understand her worth. What was the thing someone said or showed you that made you believe you deserve something different?
When I experienced that someone else was seeing the value in me, even when I was trying the less, the least amount of times that I have tried to do something, and yet someone saw value in me, that is when I realized that I was being seen. And so it was those small moments. I speak in my book about my elementary school teacher. Let's talk about that, because a lot of people have favorite teachers, and I think those people really mark our lives. So as early as then, I had this teacher who really believed in me, so much so she became my pen pal for years, even after I moved out of state. So these people that we have in our lives that see in us things that we don't even see in ourselves are really the key to us, our continued growth, and acknowledging and finding that worth within ourselves, that other people can see, maybe we don't. It confirms it.
Hmm. Interesting. Breaking cycle is not just about willpower, isn't it, Miss Lynn? Research show it requires support, tools, and new ways of thinking. What were the tools that actually move the needle for you? Is it a therapy, writing, community, faith, or something else entirely?
Certainly, therapy was the start of that. Writing has been the internal way that I have always processed. And so that was natural to me, writing and journaling. And then I started blogging during COVID at a time where I knew people needed some inspiration through my inspirational platform. It's called It's a Lifestyle. And that was what gave me the courage to really tell my story. So all of those things were healing for me, but it certainly started with acknowledging that I needed help, to understand, the emotions that I was feeling. And then from there it trickled on to a number of other different things: prayer, devotion, meditation, just creating a routine that was going to continue to maintain that healing for me.
Interesting. Miss Lynn. Melanie Shackle spoke about realizing she could not do it in her own strength and needed to depend on God. For those who are not faith based, what became the anchor you held on to when your own strength ran out?
Knowing that I did not have control. So when you know that you don't have control, that something beyond yourself is what's actually creating this harmonious or non harmonious path in your life, you learn to step away and surrender. For me, it was faith, but that certainly can be a number of different practices for different people. It could be just spending time in nature if you know that that's what grounds you. It's finding activities that are going to help you get to the core of who you are, and just sitting in stillness and allowing yourself the space to just be without any pressure or need to prove yourself, just really understanding who you are at the core.
Dr. Bock emphasizes that healing involves grieving your traumatic lineage. Was there a grief process you had to move through, grieving the parents you did not have, the childhood you did not get, or the family that could not meet you in your healing?
Absolutely, yes. So my book really, in a whole, in certain so many ways, talks about grief in different stages and different processes. For me, certain, for sure, I had to grieve that relationship that I wish I had had with my mother, because as I moved on through life, I would see other daughters or sons have this harmonious relationship, where their parent knew everything about them, was supportive of them. And I had to grieve the fact that I would never have that. And I had to learn to be okay with that. So it's either I lived in this space of resentment because I didn't have it, which will ultimately harm me, right? Or I just had to make peace with it and learn to understand why, which is where we get into the generational cycle healing of this journey. Understanding that my mother came from somebody, from her mother. Her mother was raised a certain way. My mother was raised by her mother. And, on and on in our lineage, everything is passed down. So for me, understanding that and knowing that I would never have a happy ending as it relates to what I was expecting helped me come, to a place of peace and joy with it. And instead of trying to, make this big traumatic developmental history of mine be something that was going to be who I would become in the future, I actually turned that around and turned it around for good.
Experts note that trauma can actually change gene expression through epigenetics, affecting how future generations respond to stress. How does knowing the healing you today literally changes your biological legacy impact how you shown up?
Oh, it is so heartwarming to think that, especially when I think of my son and his children. I see it. It's almost like seeing your life flash before your eyes. You see what could possibly be of a future because I made a decision to just do things a little differently. And culturally, that is in itself a big feat, because we know that as our culture develops or how we were raised is usually passed on. So the cultural aspects I wanted him to carry on, he's carrying. But I also am understanding that this is a new world we're living in, that our children are not like we were. And so it's almost, apparent that their children are not going to be like them either. Every generation changes a little bit, but I think I've imparted enough that I am so excited about what the future holds for the continued lineage of my family.
Mm, well, indeed. You've done the work, Miss Lean. What does healed look like on a regular Tuesday afternoon? Not perfect, but different.
Yeah, so healing looks like a continued journey. It looks like really acknowledging and really observing, I should say, use the word observing more. Observing that it was sometimes when we're triggered by little things, that is only a result of things that we've been through in the past. And when you observe that feeling or emotion, it makes you, really snap back and think, okay. I recognize that feeling, I'm going to do something differently. So healing is a continued journey. It's not a I'm healed today and I will be healed forever type of thing. There are things that happen in life that disturb us, that upset us, but the resilience that we've built through the things that we've been through are really where it's going to make us continue to be steady, adaptive, purpose driven people.
Hmm. Very well said, Miss Lane. Melanie Shackle talked about praying for her daughter to be strong and brave, and then realizing those characteristics require going through hard things to be forged. How do you parent as or a mentor or a love differently now, knowing that you can protect the next generation from everything, but you cannot give them a better tools?
Yes, so we certainly cannot protect them from everything, but we can give them better tools by the way that we communicate with them. I think the most important thing is knowing that we must just listen. I think as parents in general, we think that we must constantly be talking and teaching, but we forget that one of the most important parts of that process is that we have to listen and observe and be able to guide them in the best way that we can, knowing that they are not us. But I'll tell you, for me, it was a big aha moment, as Oprah would say, when I realized that I was putting a lot of my normal tendencies as a student, onto my son. And what that was creating was just a sense of like, oh, I have to keep up. I have to keep up, a sense of anxiety. But understanding that as he was able to speak it to me made me shift the way that I parented him and reminded me I can't in any way expect him to be the exact same way that I was. He is his own person. And so the more that we're able to spend time listening, the better we're able to parent our kids and make sure that we're leading them in the right direction.
Definitely our legacy to the world. So, Miss Lean, before we wrap up our discussion for today, I'm inviting you to please do listen to my other podcast, people, because my Abstract Essay is already in sixth season, Abstract Poetry in third season, and my Book 101 review in sixth season as well, Comedy 101 in fourth season, and my Food 101 in sixth season too, Geography 101 Love Letters, Movie 101 review, Music 101 are in fifth season. Science 101, Sex 101 in its fourth season. My Baby Podcast, Motivation 101, Spiritual Awakening 101, Law 101, Mental Health 101, and of course, Entrepreneurship 101, and Baby One, Coaching 101, as well as the Bible Verses 101. Please listen to them wherever you listen your podcast. So, Miss Lynn, if someone is listening right now who knows they're the one, the cycle breaker in their family, but they are terrified and exhausted before they even started. What would you want them to know what's waiting on the other side?
I would want them to know that clarity in their situation meets courage, that having the courage to speak up and transform your family by expressing these new ideas and ways of being is it's important. And so impact lasts when we're able to stand in the gap and really do what we were called to do. And you will know that because you're usually the one that people come to when they need you. So I say stand strong in it.
Mm. Stand strong and fight for it, people. It's all Miss Lin Green. Thank you so much for sharing your knowledge and wisdom to the world. So, can you please invite our listeners to support your book advocacy for whatever project that you're doing right now?
Yes, yes, you can purchase my book, Enough with the Secrets Mama, anywhere that you buy books. Any online retailer has it. all over the world. Really would appreciate that. You can follow me on my inspirational platform, It's the Lifestyle, on all social media. That's ISSA Lifestyle, LIVE style. I can't wait to connect with everyone. I can't wait to hear how the book is impacting you. So feel free to leave me a review if you've read it.
Yes, people, lots about Miss Lin Green. Because if you support her, pursue more and more empowering books like this to thrive. So, Miss Lin Green, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
Monica, people, see you soon.